London as the intellectual and revolutionary hub. London served as the intellectual crucible for Marxist communism's development in the 1840s and 1860s, reflecting its role as the heart of industrial capitalism and a haven for political exiles. Britain's Industrial Revolution transformed its economy, with factories, railways, and urbanization creating a substantial proletariat, constituting 30% of the workforce by 1850, and stark class disparities that Marx critiqued. London's slums, teeming with impoverished workers, stood in sharp contrast to the opulent wealth of industrialists and aristocrats, exemplifying capitalist exploitation. The British Museum's extensive economic records, including factory reports, enabled Marx's rigorous research for Das Kapital, while the city's vibrant émigré community, encompassing German, French, Italian, and other radicals, fostered a dynamic network of revolutionary ideas. The Communist League, based in Soho's German Workers' Educational Society, provided a platform for the Communist Manifesto, while groups like the Fraternal Democrats facilitated cross-cultural exchanges with British radicals, such as the Chartists, led by figures like George Julian Harney, an English journalist. Marx and Engels anticipated a proletarian revolution in Britain, Germany, or France, where advanced capitalism and class consciousness were most developed, as articulated in their seminal work. Despite these conditions, communism failed to ignite a revolution in London or Western Europe. Britain's economic prosperity, with skilled workers earning 20 to 30 shillings weekly by 1870, and legislative reforms, such as the Factory Acts of 1833 to 1878 that limited work hours, alleviated some labor grievances, reducing revolutionary fervor. The expansion of parliamentary democracy through the Reform Act of 1867 allowed dissent to be channeled into electoral politics, while trade unions and the nascent Labour Party, established in 1900, promoted reformist socialism over radical upheaval. Cultural factors, including British nationalism and the influence of Christianity, tempered the appeal of Marxist class-based rhetoric, and government surveillance effectively suppressed radical movements, as evidenced by the crackdowns on Chartist uprisings in 1848. In Germany, the Social Democratic Party adopted Marxist principles but prioritized electoral success, securing 20% of votes by 1890, which diluted revolutionary momentum. France, despite socialist activism led by figures like Louis Blanc, a French journalist, maintained stable governance, preventing Marxist implementation. The stability and reformist tendencies of Western Europe thus thwarted communism's revolutionary aspirations, redirecting its trajectory elsewhere. The German émigrés: identity, motivations, and revolutionary networks. The German émigrés who formed the League of Outlaws and League of the Just were primarily artisans and intellectuals from Prussia, Bavaria, and other German states within the German Confederation, driven into exile by political persecution and economic hardship. The Confederation's repressive policies, codified in the Carlsbad Decrees of 1819, targeted liberal and radical activists following the July Revolution of 1830 in France and the failed Frankfurt Parliament attack of 1833. Artisans, such as tailors and shoemakers, faced economic displacement due to industrialization, which eroded traditional crafts and reduced wages by 10 to 15% in the 1830s. Intellectuals like Venedig and Schuster were censored for advocating republicanism and socialism, risking imprisonment or worse. Identified by their political activities, publishing subversive pamphlets, joining band groups like the Burschenschaften, or attending protests such as the Hambach Festival of 1832, these émigrés fled to Paris, which hosted 40,000 to 50,000 Germans by 1835, and later to London, a liberal haven with 7,000 émigrés by 1852. The ethnic composition of these émigrés was predominantly German, reflecting the cultural and linguistic unity of the German states. Their religious identity was overwhelmingly Christian, encompassing Lutheran and Catholic traditions, which aligned with the Confederation's dominant religious culture. The League of Outlaws, with approximately 180 members, and the League of the Just, peaking at over 1,000, were artisan-based, drawing from Christian-dominated guilds that historically excluded Jewish craftsmen due to anti-Semitic restrictions. No documented members of either league were of Jewish descent, and the Christian communist ideology of the League of the Just, as articulated by Weitling, further limited Jewish participation. However, the broader émigré milieu included Jewish radicals like Moses Hess, a German philosopher of Jewish descent, who contributed to socialist thought in intellectual circles but not within the leagues. In Germany, individuals of Jewish descent constituted 1 to 2% of the population, approximately 200,000 in 1830, a proportion mirrored in Paris, 1% of 1 million, and London, 0.5 to 1% of 2.5 million, where they were primarily merchants or intellectuals. This demographic pattern underscores the historical tendency of Jewish communities to form small, integrated minorities within larger populations, often facing discrimination but contributing to radical movements in secular contexts. The émigré's flight was driven by a combination of political persecution, economic hardship, and danger. Political radicals faced arrest or execution, as seen in Weitling's 1835 detention in Paris, while artisans sought better prospects in industrial cities, though many endured poverty in London's Soho slums. London's appeal lay in its relative freedom from censorship, contrasting with the German state's authoritarianism and France's post-1839 expulsions of radicals. The émigré's revolutionary zeal, fueled by their exile experience, led to the formation of the Leagues, which channeled their grievances into socialist activism. The League of the Just had direct contact with Marx and Engels, commissioning the Communist Manifesto in 1847, while the League of Outlaws, dissolving by 1838, had indirect contact through shared members like Weitling and Schopper, who later joined the Just and engaged Marx. The Commission and Authorship of the Communist Manifesto. The Communist League, formed in June 1847 through the merger of the League of the Just and Marx and Engels Communist Correspondence Committee, commissioned Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels to write the Communist Manifesto at its Second Congress in London, held at the German Workers' Educational Society from November to December 1847. This commission was a pivotal moment, as the League sought a clear, accessible program to unify its diverse membership and distinguish itself from other socialist factions amid the brewing revolutions of 1848. Marx, a formidable theorist with a background in young Hegelian philosophy and journalism, dominated Congress debates, securing support for his materialist program over utopian or conspiratorial alternatives. Engels, a League member since 1846, endorsed Marx's leadership, contributing preliminary drafts such as Principles of Communism, published in 1847, which served as a foundation for the Manifesto. Published in February 1848 in German, the Manifesto articulated a revolutionary vision of class struggle, proletarian uprising, and the abolition of private property, becoming a cornerstone of communist ideology. The authorship credit for the Communist Manifesto is attributed to Marx and Engels due to their intellectual and literary contributions. Marx wrote the final draft, synthesizing the League's egalitarian ethos with his scientific socialism, while Engels provided structural input and earlier drafts. The League's role was organizational, commissioning the text and inspiring its revolutionary spirit, but its artisan members, such as Schopper and Moll, lacked the theoretical depth to draft a comprehensive manifesto. The Manifesto's global resonance, amplified by Marx's later works like Das Kapital and his leadership in the First International, tied it to their names. The League's dissolution by 1852, due to repression following the 1848 revolutions, and its secondary role as a commissioning body explain its omission from popular credit, though scholarly accounts acknowledge its contribution. The commission was essential, as it provided the impetus for a public manifesto, aligning with the revolutionary fervor of 1848. Without it, Marx and Engels might have continued theoretical work, but the manifesto's unique form and timing likely depended on the League's request.